Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever it happens to be where you are. In this video, I am going to try to quickly walk you through how and where to find the pieces you may be searching for to play Global War 1985. It is a big game. It has a lot of moving parts, and if you're just starting out cold, it can be rather intimidating trying to find everything you need, wondering what you need in order to put together a set. So I'm going to try to help out with that. So the first thing you do, go to historicalboardgaming.com. Obviously, you know that if you've bought or pre-ordered the game. Then the first thing you're going to do is click on the new items tab. I think you could see it there. Then you'll scroll down to the January 24th section or June 24th section, and it says here Global War 85. And then down below that it says major nations needed units and minor nations needed units. So let's just click on major nations, and it takes you to a Dropbox file, which, as you can see, lists the unit types over here on the left, and then for each major faction in the game, it goes down and shows what unit is recommended for that faction and that unit type, and then a quantity, how many. For instance, for Soviet Far East Command, the designers have recommended that you have 25 infantry sculpts for your set. Soviet Global Command, 24, and so on. Now, throughout this needed unit list, the quantities of each unit type assume that you will be using counter chips if you have more than one piece in a land zone. So if you're somebody who doesn't like to use chips, you want to have a sculpt for each unit in that zone, then you'll need to adjust your totals accordingly. But I mean, all of these things are hyperlinked to, for instance, I'm for next generation main battle tank. I'm going to click on the Soviet T-80, and you can see it takes you right to the product page on the HBG website, so that you can make a wish list or put it in however many you want in your cart to submit an order. That's pretty easy and straightforward, and it's organized by land units, and then there is another section for naval units. There's another section, I skipped over it here, for air units. And then down here at the bottom, there's cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles. It's a comprehensive list of the pieces, the sculpts, the 3D printed pieces that you'll want to play the game. And as I said, all of these different units, sculpts that are available, they're all hyperlinked. Here's F8 Crusader fighters. I mean, it's pretty easy to find your way around. And then go back to the new items page on the HBG website, click on minor nations, and you've got the exact same thing. You've got a Dropbox file that tells you what you need for this one is grouped as neutrals. Then you have minors that are aligned in some way to the Warsaw Pact Alliance, minors that are somehow aligned to the NATO alliance, minors that may be aligned to China. And again, the quantities involved here assume that you will use counter chips for multiples in a single zone. So these two Dropbox files and the hyperlinks therein are where you will do the vast majority of your shopping trying to build a set. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. But there are also some things that are not on those lists that you're going to need to play the game. And the first thing is roundels. You have to have roundels for each major faction for territory control, tracking on the technology chart, the IPP chart, so on and so forth. So, what I have done, because some of this stuff can be hard to find, I've gone through and done the legwork for you. I'm going to tell you exactly where to find each one that you need. So, back to the home page for HBG. Then we come over here to the markers tab. And we run down here to 1946 to present. Click on that. And then we have to go a couple different places. We're going to start with the first one right here, the Cold War section. And page 1, there's the roundels right there that you need for NATO. I'm not going to click through all of them. I'm just going to read them off. You can take notes as you watch the video if you want to keep track of where to find these things or however you want to do it. So in the Cold War section, the NATO roundels are on page 1. Soviet Global Command you will find on page, well, just let me go ahead and do it. Soviet Global is right here on page 2. And then the next one is going to be on page 5, and that is the Warsaw Pact roundel right here. And then we go to page 7. And this is where the PRF roundel, the People's Revolutionary Front, that's it's a random event minor faction that you'll understand as you begin playing the game. So those are the ones that we're going to find in the Cold War section of markers 1946 to present. For the next ones, we have to go back to the 1946 to present screen, come down here and click on Modern Warfare, and then on page 1, we have China and U.S. Global Command. Okay, so there's those. So that for as far as major faction roundels goes, then that just leaves 2 more we have to find. Far East Command and U.S. Pacific Command. Those, the only good way to find them is to come up here to the top and use the search box. And what you want to do is you will want to type in USSR Naval Jack. And that oh, come on. It worked earlier. Now it's telling me there's no results. Okay, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. U.S. Naval Jack. Okay, here we go. So, this isn't the way I did it earlier. For some reason, the way I did it earlier isn't working now, so see if I can find what I'm looking for here real fast. I can't, so let me pause for a second and I'll find it and come back. Okay, I found it. I did my notes wrong. What you want to type in the search box up here is, you want to type in Soviet Naval Jack. That's your search term. And then you go to page 3 in your search results and scroll down here, and this is the roundel that is used for U.S. Pacific Command right here, the U.S. Naval Jack. And the Soviet Naval Jack right here is the one that's used for Soviet Far East Command. Okay, so that covers all your major faction roundels, where to find them. For some of the minor nations that you'll need some roundels for, I believe there is a plan to put together some sets with the number of roundels needed, but those will be available sometime farther down the road. If they put these sets together, then, you know, there's a random event where Chad could be at war with Libya. So you might need 2 roundels for Chad to capture Libyan territories. Well, I mean, why would you want to buy a set of 10 if you only need 2? So that's why they're talking about putting some sets together. So I would just concentrate on the major faction roundels and not worry about the minors for right now. Make some kind of workaround until you see what's going to happen with a set. Okay, and then we kind of get into markers that are needed. So the way I looked this up, you go back up here to the top of a page, you hit the marker tab. Once again, you come down to 1946 to present, click on that. Once again, you go right here to the first one, Cold War, click on that. And then on page 1, for instance, here's where you're going to find your major and minor port markers. On page 3, there are pro-alliance markers, which is what is currently being used for defense treaties. You can also, on page 3, find oil tanker markers and paramilitary markers. On page 4, you can find markers for terrorists. If you're interested in using the Air Force, Navy, or Marine Corps flight stand markers to designate fighters, attack bombers, so forth, those are also found on page 4 of the Cold War section. On page 5, you'll find blockade marker. On page 7, we have nuclear gravity bomb, AGM-69, that's air-to-ground missile number 69, and AGM-86B markers. Those are used as special missiles by US B-1 bombers. See, on the same page 7, you can also find markers for major and minor Army bases and POMCUS sites if you wish to use markers for those. Even though they're printed on the map, I put the markers on the printed icon because you can a POMCUS site is a one-time use. So once I place a unit there, I take the marker off and I know it's been used and can't build another one there. On page 8 of the Cold War section, you will find markers for theater missiles, which are important. You'll want to have those. Okay, that's everything that you'll find in the Cold War section. So now we dip back out to 1946 to present. We go down here to Modern Warfare, click on that. And on page 4, you will find in this right here, Top Gun markers and ASW, anti-submarine warfare, flight stand markers. If you use flight stands, you already know how handy the markers are to just slip on the flight stand. It's a lot easier to keep track of what's what. On page 5, well, I might have already mentioned terrorist under Cold War. Anyway, if I didn't, you can find it in the modern section on page 5. On page 9, that's where you'll get major and minor Army base markers. On page 11, I'll go to this one and just show you real quick. Click over to it. Page 11, you've got ICBM markers for your dashboard and for when the missiles are fired. You also have IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missile markers, SLBM, submarine launched ballistic missiles. That stuff is on page 11. On page 12, you have markers for advanced SLBMs. Page 13 of this section, you've got markers for nuclear torpedoes, which can come into play. And then, there we go. On page 13, you also have markers for anti-ship missiles, spy satellites, and space launch facilities. Space launch facilities, even though they're printed on the map, it is possible for some factions to be able to build additional facilities, so you might want to have some of those markers. That's what we're going to find in the modern section. Then for the rest, we pop back out here. Actually, we pop back out all the way back out to the markers. We go down here and click on Complete List, Markers Tokens. And then in this list, you can go down to the NATO section. Down here, okay, here's all of this stuff is NATO things. This is where you can find markers for your air assault units, airborne, light infantry, Marines, and yeah, and then there's, you go down here below NATO to naval shipyard, and that's where you can get major and minor shipyard markers. From this general list, you can also get chemical markers, atomic blast, import, out of supply, insurgents. If you go down here to submarine status and click on that one, you can get silent running markers, which you will definitely need. That's how your submarines protect themselves most of the time. And then back up toward the top here, you click on damage. I use the round ones. They also have them in square markers, whichever you prefer. You click on damage, and then as you see here, the blast markers I use for a destroyed facility or city, something that's completely wiped out. And then you have damage points. So you've got a variety of damage markers here to choose from to track that stuff. And that is pretty much how and where to find the pieces you need to play the basic game. I hope it's helpful for you.